Today we have a quite unique case in terms of size because it was actually quite a pleasure building inside this one. The initial start, when you take a look at the back side of the cable management, is totally disaster as per usual. Not with the XPG, but in general, when you have multiple fans that aren't daisy chainable, like immediately, not with the cables later on. So that's the only flaw I found in this case. And I'm really satisfied with it. It's going to be a shocker because it's a small case. It's a really small case. Today we're going to talk about XPG INVADER X MINI. And when I say mini, it really is mini compared to the original one, the Invader X, logical. And the cool thing is, when I took it out of the box, I thought, okay, they have two accessory boxes here on top and one accessory box in the hard drive cage. This something must be wrong here, right? Because I see two fans at the top, one fan at the rear, and two accessory box cases here. So taking everything apart, you get two additional fans. So basically, what you need to do is either, if you're going with an air cooler, you can go with an air cooler because you don't need any additional fans, or with an AIO. Now, here I'm using Levante X240, and I didn't want to use for the first time original fans because I wanted to unify an XPG build with their fans. So we have three 120 here, two at the top, one at the rear, and two 120 here on the power supply shroud, which are reversed blades. They have reversed blades. And the cool thing about it is you can see the power supply shroud here on the side and on the front, it's completely ventilated. And okay, you do have cables running here at the bottom, don't get me wrong, but it's still enough air to push and create some chimney effect. And that's outstanding. So what you can do is two 120 or two 140 at the top, one 120 at the rear, and two 120 at the bottom. For the AIOs, only one 240 at the top. Why? Well, because it's a really small case. So you're either bumping the EPS cables, or if you're going with a thicker radiator, you're bumping the VRM heatsink or the RAMs. So Levante fits. You're going to touch a bit the EPS cables if you're going with the custom extenders like I did, but if you go with regular cables that come with, for instance, Coreactor 2, you won't have any issues because they're quite nicely bendable and they won't be even touching it. So there's another thing. With Levante X240, I have Coreactor 2 850 watts fully modular power supply, so ready for the RTX 4000 series. Now, there are limitations, of course. With this case, you can't go with the 360 radiator. Okay, no problem. We have a 240, that's quite solid. At the back, you would consider you don't have enough space for cable management. Well, check this out. On the side, you can reroute two EPS cables, and on the front back side, you can reroute the 24 pin and any other additional cable that needs to go on the side. Taking into consideration the ARGB and PWM connections, well, that's another thing. You have to push them upwards or hide them somewhere at the top like I did, because it will just look strange. So regarding the PWM, the fans aren't PWM, they are 3-pin DC, so you can still kind of regulate them. You just have to go to BIOS and adjust the fan curves, and that's it. So nothing in particularly hard or difficult with this build. It's really straightforward. The only thing that I would suggest, and since we're having a compact case, compact fish tank actually, you do need to do some things prior here before you actually put the power supply and the fans. And when I say that, I mean connecting. I don't know if you need to connect anything with addressable RGB or PWM or DC, for instance. And of course, the front panel headers, I would definitely do that prior to placing the fans and the power supply. Now, fans go before the GPU and the AIO because you do need to tie up the screws from the top, giving you much needed space to actually use a screwdriver, because if you put a GPU, you can only tie up these four screws at the front. Quite logical. So what's it all about with this case? I think they wanted to go with something compact, and they achieved the compactness, they achieved the simplicity, and the case is really great. I'm really sad. I can't even explain how satisfied I am with this case. It's not that, okay, we're having a much thinner steel than unusual cases what we have, right? Okay, that's something that downgrades the price, without a doubt. But the visual aspect, loving the open part right here. Loving the, well, we have a magnetic dust filter at the top. It just is simple compact case, and this is sometimes quite appealing. Minimalism, and that's it. So it comes in black and white color. Now dimensions are interesting. 460 times 210 times 359. The case is made out of SPCC and 4 mm thick tempered glass. Supports ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX motherboards. For the hard drive cage as well, basically you have to place it inside because it's detached, coming in a plastic bag, so you can accommodate two 3.5-inch hard drives because you have the hard drive tray, or you can do the hard drive plus additional SSD on top, and you can go with two additional SSDs behind the motherboard, which is outstanding. Now, going with the I/O port, quite minimal, and I mean, look at the case. It's supposed to be like this. USB 3.2 Type C, USB 3.2 Type A, hybrid audio port, which means 4-pole 3.5 mm jack. Then we have reset button and power on button. For the GPU, you have space up to 330 mm. CPU cooler height is up to 166, and PSU length, well, basically, if you honestly remove the hard drive cage, you have the whole space here at the bottom. But it says up to 180 mm, so I won't go against that. 2 years warranty, which basically doesn't, maybe for the fans, but honestly, it's really nothing in particularly strange unless something really bends out of the shape or whatever. I didn't even try the flex test on front because I don't know, it's just simply I didn't even want to try it. It's thinner, it will definitely flex, so just be careful. Don't break your case. You're not testing the hardness or thickness. It will hold a 240 radiator, so stick with it. Place a 240 and don't do anything with it. It will be normal. That's it. So in addition to everything, what I wanted to say more about it, two thumb screws are holding the side tempered glass, two thumb screws are holding the back steel panel. And the front tempered glass is basically on two pegs. So when you remove the side tempered glass, you just slightly pull the front tempered glass towards you and lift it upwards. That's it. Of course, these aren't, the side tempered glass isn't only held by the two thumb screws. You actually have two or three hinges, I'm not quite sure, that two hinges that hold here and two hinges that hold up here at the top. So that's quite solid, which means that the tempered glass won't fall off if you untie your thumb screws. That's it. And they needed to do that because you don't have a pole here between two tempered glass panels. So yeah. Now, when we go into benchmarks, I have something new here. This is ASRock X870 Steel Legend Wi-Fi paired up with AMD Ryzen 5 9600X, and we have Zotac GeForce RTX 4070 Ti Super Infinity OC. And in AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, CPU went up to 57 degrees. Clock speed 4806 megahertz, and GPU went up to 71. Now, when we take into consideration the GPU, let's be honest, in past case that I reviewed, it went up to 77. So in this smaller chassis, with only bottom intake, it got 6 degrees lower. So that, I think that's quite solid. And then we go to Cinebench. Now, Cinebench is quite solid. I mean, the CPU was going from 56 to 60 eventually. It was slightly increasing, but then we have loads of different parameters when we're talking about clock speed from 4580 to 4606, and then the Cinebench score started at 15,792, and then it immediately jumped, almost touching 16,000, and it stayed there in the last 4 runs, actually surpassing 16,000 and even going to 16,290. Since this is actually my first benchmark with 9600X, I actually wanted to see and compare others what they got from the benchmarks, and basically it's somewhere there. It's definitely somewhere there, because what I saw, it goes from 15,500s to 16,000 300s, 400s, something like that. So that's quite solid, and it can achieve that without a problem. Guys, what I can say, this case, if you're into minimal, this is it. If you're into saving desk space, but you don't want to go with Mini ITX because, I don't know, Mini ITX boards can be expensive, SFF power supplies can be expensive, and similar stuff like that, right? So this is really a small chassis. This is really a small chassis compared to everything that I reviewed recently and what is coming for the future videos. This is a small chassis. I think I said that a bit too much, but then again, it comes packed with all the fans. You basically, if you can, you can't, but it would be ideal if you can find a 240 that doesn't have any fans on it, so you can just place these, or just swap all the fans if you want to go with something much better. But we're talking about the budget case, budget fans. Why invest in more fans? Because they're nicely running silent. You can hear a small hum and that's it. So Invader X Mini is definitely a cool case, and I'm really satisfied a bit more than on the past cases. And it just in the full white, I think it looks better than in full black, without a doubt. I'm really digging it. I said too much. Yeah, that's it, guys. In the description, you'll have the links for the Invader X Mini, Levante X240, and of course the Core Reactor 2, all in white, so you can pair it up. I think I'll just place the black versions as well, because then you can, it depends what you want. If you have already black components, you could go with full black build. If you have white components, you could go with full white build. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell, and leave a comment. I really want to see what you think about this case, and let's make a discussion. Thanks. See ya. Bye.